The problem with John Steinbeck is that his great work often gets buried beneath his even greater works. I recently read In Dubious Battle, and this is the last annotation I made on the book. Holy expletive. Steinbeck never disappoints. Great story. Tragic because it feels so real, so devastating. It feels both damning to the human spirit and yet filled with hope. There are other details that I annotated that I don't want to say because they would spoil the book. What I am going to do is I'm going to read this blurb and then the portion of a review on the back cover of this edition. It says, an extraordinary exploration of the power of the mob for good and for evil. In the California Apple Country, 900 migrant workers rise up in dubious battle against the landowners. The group takes on a life of its own, stronger than its individual members and more frightening. Led by the doomed Jim Nolan, the strike is founded on his tragic idealism, on the courage never to submit or yield. The review says, In Dubious Battle cannot be dismissed as a propaganda novel. It is another version of the eternal human fight against injustice. It is an especially good version, dramatically intense, beautifully written. It is the real thing. It has a vigor of sheer storytelling that may sweep away many prejudices. Now, for those of you who don't know, the title of the book, In Dubious Battle, comes from John Milton's Paradise Lost. It says, innumerable force of spirits armed, that durst dislike his reign and me preferring, his utmost power with adverse power opposed in dubious battle on the plains of heaven, and shook his throne. What though the field be lost? All is not lost. The unconquerable will and study of revenge, immortal hate and courage, never to submit or yield. And what is else not to be overcome? This is where I don't know how to feel about the title, because if we are speaking purely in a literary sense, it's perfection. The idea of the underdog defying the powerful, David versus Goliath, it works well. But if we consider the religious perspective, we must recall that the speaker of those lines in Paradise Lost is Satan. So the immigrant working class mob is being compared to Satan uprising against God. But in my humble opinion, the rich landowners and those who carry out the dirty work are the only satanic characters. So I'm having a little bit of a cognitive dissonance. I've never truly read Paradise Lost though, so I can't really say much about it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the concept altogether. But let me sandwich that critique of the title with a positive again. And that is that if we look at the title in a purely literary sense, it conveys the plight of the working poor against those who hold power perfectly. Don't even look at my commentary as critique, as John Steinbeck is one of the authors I admire the most, the author whose work I have read and reread most often. The themes of the novel include social injustice, the plight of poor people trying to overcome the figurative and sometimes literal manacles that the rich and powerful and the government have placed on them. It often brings up the question, do the ends justify the means? For example, on page 174, we have a scene in which one of the main characters, Mac, says the following, "We got damn few things to fight with. We got to use what we can. This little guy was my friend. You can take it from me. He'd want to get used any way we can use him. We got to use him." He paused, backing. "Can't you see? We'll get a hell of a lot of people on our side if we put on a public funeral. We got to get public opinion." Now in this scene, what's going on is that one of the characters gets shot and killed fighting for what he believed in. And Mac wants to use his body to have a public funeral to rile up the other strikers so that they are more willing to fight. And they are debating the morality or the immorality of such action. Mac knows that it's immoral, but he's still willing to do so because he feels that he's fighting for something that matters beyond a single individual, that matters for all the workers. On page 321, Mac also says, "What they need is blood," he muttered. "A mob's got to kill something." So once again, do the ends justify the means. Right here, he's saying that there needs to be some violence in order for the strikers to be riled up and fight back for their rights. And once again, it questions the morality of such actions. I'll read one of my favorite pages of the book. It's page 262. Jim said, "You ought to think only of the end, Doc. Out of all this struggle, a good thing is going to grow. That makes it worthwhile." Jim, I wish I knew it, but in my little experience, the end is never very different in its nature from the means. Damn it, Jim. You can't only build a violent thing with violence. I don't believe that, Jim said. All great things have violent beginnings. There aren't any beginnings, Burton said, nor any ends. It means to me that man has engaged in a blind and fearful struggle out of a past he can't remember, into a future he can't foresee nor understand. And man has met and defeated every obstacle, every enemy, except one. He cannot win over himself. How mankind hates itself. Jim said, "We don't hate ourselves. We hate the invested capital that keeps us down." The other side is made of men, Jim. Men like you. Man hates himself. The use of violence as a tool is thematic in the book, but violence is used as a tool by both sides, and yet again it leads to the question whether the ends justify the means. Something that I find interesting is that the book was published originally in 1936 to popular success, and it makes me wonder how the book would have been received if it had been published during the 50s or 60s when the anti-socialist and anti-communist sentiment was stronger. But back to the problem of John Steinbeck's work though. I do think it's a genuine problem when an author produces great works of literature, but they get overshadowed by their world-class works. Steinbeck was a prolific writer, and many people read only his signature works, such as The Grapes of Wrath, East of Eden, Of Mice and Men, and a few others, without realizing that his other works are wonderful too. My personal favorite is To a God Unknown. I recommend it to anyone who has ever enjoyed one of Steinbeck's books. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked the video, please subscribe. Bye bye.